Marker.
Let's simply do our makeup and talk about Jesus. We're talking about Ruth and Boaz.
What you can't see is that this mic is sitting on a cardboard box, but it's fine. Everything's fine. Okay, so we're talking about Ruth and Boaz. Honey, now, right? We always hear about Ruth and Boaz. We hear about it when it comes to relationships and all the things. There are some really good relationship gems that I will get to in a bit, okay? But from the jump, let's talk about the fact that the book is called Ruth. The story of Ruth and Boaz is in the book of Ruth. It's not in the book of Boaz. So that told me, there's something to be said about Ruth, her character, and the way that she moves through this book. And by the way, if you haven't read it yet, I would highly suggest the read. 4 chapters, right? 4 chapters. Not too long. So let's give a little background. Let's kind of, get our bearings about us. Basically what's going on. First character, Naomi. Naomi has 2 sons. Those 2 sons, they get wives, okay? Unfortunately, Naomi's 2 sons pass away, and she is left only with her daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah. Okay? You follow me? Are you picking up what I am putting down? So we get to this point where Naomi is super sad and really telling her 2 daughters-in-law, go find yourself a man, because logically, I cannot help you in that department. Both of those daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah, both say, we insist. What is it? They said, we insist on returning with you to your people. And that's when Naomi goes in and she's like, go home, Roger. No, she said, go home, my daughters. If you know that reference. We're here. She said, go home, my daughters, go on, for I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me to have a husband tonight and bear sons, would you be willing to wait for them to grow up? Valid question, Naomi. She's spitting logic right now. No, my daughters, my life is too bitter for you to share. Just go on. They all wept loudly together, and this is where separation happens. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. She said, look, Orpah's leaving. Like, why don't you just go with her? And Ruth just clings to Naomi, telling her, my God will be your God. I'm not going to leave you, girl. I'm not going to leave you, mother-in-law. And that moment spoke to me. I'm going to blend 2 contours together because life is short. So use 2 contours, okay? When we read Ruth, we kind of know the ending, right? We know Ruth and Boaz end up together. Knowing the end, we read the beginning, and it's like, wow, Orpah really let logic lead her away from a miracle. A lot of times, logic can lead us away from what could be a miracle and what could be your answered prayer. Logic can lead us away from the answer to your problem. You know what I mean? It's like heavenly math. The answer to what you're searching for is found in your character. Ruth was loyal. Ruth said, even though you just listed out logically how much you really can't do anything for me, Naomi, I'm going to stick with you. Sometimes it takes logic to expose character. Hard times reveal the fruit of your character. It reveals who and what you worship. They really both went to what they cling to. For Ruth, she clung to Naomi. She clung to character. She clung to loyalty. For Orpah, in order to cling to what she needs to cling to, she had to go. Her loyalty was revealed in that moment, and she went to what she clung to, which is her people, her gods, her comfort, really. Even though this looks crazy right now, it's going to be fine. Just wait. I was doing some research, and what's interesting is that Orpah's name means neck. And I said, the neck connects the head to the body. And the irony is that when logic was presented to Orpah, she was all up in her head. What was in her head, the logic, led her body to go back to what was comfortable. Ruth's name actually means friend, compassionate friend. And what did she do? She clung to Naomi. And this all happened before Boaz even entered the picture. Ruth's name means friend, right? So quite literally, Ruth was a friend before she was a wife. Ruth, screaming. Ruth, whether a man was present or not, she had the capacity to just be a really good friend. And it's such a good reminder that you don't have to save your relationship skills for a man. There are other relationships in your life that can benefit from your character, from your loyalty, from your compassion. Yes, like pouring into your husband. I am so excited to do that. But in this season, I also know there are so many friends that I can pour into, or people I can be present for before I am present for my husband. Not that we should do these things because, Lord, I want a husband, so I'm gonna make sure I treat this friend well. I treat my friend well. No, the way Ruth has moved in this book from the jump is just an extension of her character. It's just who she is. Now going in with the second contour. Let's flip the script and we're gonna go from the perspective of Naomi. Let's look at Naomi, right? Because she is someone that is going through some things. She literally says in there, the Lord's hand is turned against me. And she came to this conclusion that the Lord has turned against her by listening to her own reality and standing on what is reality, instead of inquiring to God about what is the spiritual perspective of her situation. Really similar to the way Orpah was moving. Reality says, everything around her says that she's empty. But in reality, the Lord already had the answer to what she felt was taken from her. In everything, there is a season. One season had ended, and Naomi lost all hope that any better season could possibly come from this, because logic said this is a dead end. In this season, Naomi really got to see who was really her friend, who was really a compassionate friend. So for the men, if you're looking at a woman to be your wife, what does her character look like before you even got in the picture? What is her community's experience of her before you get into the picture? Anybody can act right on a date. How did I lose my beauty blender? I found it. It was deep in my makeup bag. Don't ask me how it got there that fast. One thing the enemy is after is marriage. Like, if every time we believe dead ends in our life, as a married couple, we're not going to go very far, right? We're going to be running away from things that we should actually be pushing into and clinging to. Ruth shows us that when you walk in character and loyalty, it leaves room for God's sovereignty to just show out, to show off and show out. It did not say Ruth went and laid her edges and went out to the field and was like, hey, Boaz. It literally says in the Bible that she happened to be in the portion of the field that belonged to Boaz. Who she was day in and day out, that is what led her to Boaz. Okay? Not placing herself in his view to try to creative direct a meeting of her and her future man because of what he had. No. We see that the only person who is creative directing this story is Jesus. Truly, on both ends. We're going to film a part 2. Okay, we're going to film a part 2 of this because I need to talk about Boaz. Literally have forgotten to press record twice now. I was talking into a lens that was not recording me. Okay, we are in there like somewhere. If you feel so inclined, sign up for notifications. When I tell you it's my go-to look, it's just my go-to look. One day I will experiment with eyeshadow, maybe. But I love you. Jesus loves you, most importantly, and we out. If no one's told you yet, you're doing great. You're doing wonderfully. Let's keep going.